Take it away.
Awesome. Okay. Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you. Awesome to be in a room filled with entrepreneurs. We're all masochists together, right? It's a painful journey, but well worth it. Okay, so who am I and why am I here? And what do I know? Let's see. So I come from, just to give you some background on myself, I come from, prior to starting Modalyst, 12 years in the fashion industry. Spent 5 years working at American Vogue and Italian Vogue here in New York, working on the photo shoots and traveling the world with them. And then did the whole Devil Wears Prada thing and jumped ship and moved to China. Moved into a hostel, met a couple people, started a brand, scaled it across China, and then got pitched by Harvey Nichols. Do you guys know Harvey Nichols? Yes, everybody? In case you don't, it's sort of like the Barneys of England. They opened a store in Hong Kong, and I managed the buying team for that store. So 5 floors of luxury fashion. I spent 4 months of the year traveling across the world looking for brands. Painful, expensive, time-consuming, annoying process, and that's why I started Modalyst. So when we first started, there's a bit more to my career, so I'll just do that actually. Moved on from Harvey Nichols to Prada, opened up all their first Miu Miu stores across Asia Pacific. They moved me back to New York, and after about 4.5 years with them, I left to go to MIT, and I met my co-founder at MIT, convinced him to drop out, and we're off to the races with Modalyst. So there we go. Okay, so when we started the business, we were focused entirely on connecting suppliers or brands to brick and mortar stores. Because that's what I knew, right? I was a buyer for a big store, and my challenge was finding designers and getting them into the store. And that was a great experience, but we had a ton of e-commerce stores that kept reaching out to us to work with our suppliers. And so we were rejecting them at first, but then we're like, gosh, this market is huge and growing. What is it all about? Let's let them on and see what happens. And so those retailers started hacking our system, right, to create these relationships with these suppliers so they can start drop shipping their products. So what we did is monitor what they were doing over a 6-month period of time, built it exactly what they needed based on their activities, and launched a new version of Modalyst about 17 months ago, which is entirely focused on drop shipping. So that's what my business does, and I'll go into the details of that at the end of the presentation, but feel free to ask any questions around that as well, but I'll go into the specifics of dropshipping. If I talk too fast, let me know, just like say, hey, slow down. Okay, so so you guys, I heard that you guys already had presentations on Shopify and Wix and one more, whoever it was, Magento, but you guys are probably familiar with this. This is what e-commerce on platforms looks like today, right? This is the top 10K sites globally. So these are the ones that have the most traffic, top 10,000. And so the biggest platforms that are being used are WooCommerce, Magento, Shopify, Oracle Commerce, BigCommerce, you name it, right? These are the easiest places to build a store. So if you guys are thinking about starting a store from scratch, there are resources out there which can help you do it quicker. So don't start from scratch on your own. Use these resources. And it actually gets even more interesting when you look at it on a global scale for the entire internet. WooCommerce is by far the biggest, but they don't host their own sites. It's a little bit more clumsy. But just to say, there are over 46 million e-commerce stores out there. So your challenge, right, is to stand out above the rest. How do you keep up with trends? How do you move with them quickly, and how do you keep your customers loyal to you, right? So that's what we're looking at. And then when you look at the world of e-commerce and the sales that are out there, I'm just starting at a macro level, I'll relate to dropshipping. But when you look at the world of e-commerce and why it's so interesting, why we all want to get involved, you see that globally there's $1.6 trillion of gross merchandise value, GMV, that's passing through e-commerce. And in the US alone, that's $341 billion. So it's a massive market. That's e-commerce sales. That's only about 85 to 90% of all retail sales. So brick and mortar still rules the world, but this is a growing market and it's growing fast. In fact, it's growing at 14.7% year over year. And that 112 billion represents a portion of inventory that's sold online that's specifically around dropshipping. 33% of all online sales is dropshipped. Okay, so it is a really important retail strategy that you guys are all here to learn more about for good reason. Okay, so what exactly is dropshipping? What is this business model? It is a retail fulfillment strategy where the retailer never owns the inventory, him or herself, right? They never touch it, they never feel it, they never buy it up front. Instead, they list the products on their site, and when an end consumer buys the product, that order then needs to be transmitted to the supplier, who sends it directly to the end consumer. Is that clear? Okay. Again, if you have questions around that, I can go through it in more detail, but in fact, I'm going to do that now. Okay, but I have a question for you. What percentage of retailers are dropshipping? What do you guys think? What are some guesses? 40%. 5%. What did you say? 25%.
I would say like 85%.
85%. Wow, you guys are all over the place. It's 50%. 50% of stores use some portion of their inventory within dropshipping. So 33%, right, of all online sales are dropshipped, and 50% of the stores that are online are dropshipping a portion of their inventory. It doesn't have to be all of it, but it could be a portion of it. So it's a massive opportunity. So how does it work? First, as a retailer, you need to find your products, your brands, right? So that's a challenge. How do you find the brands that are the right brands for your customer base? And you know, you have to experiment, right? You never know what your customers want until it's active. So that the flexibility is important to grow your business, and so sourcing is the fun part, right? Like we're all starting with businesses because we have a point of view, what we think is sellable and interesting for our customer base. Okay, so great, you found the brands, you've now listed them on your site, and rock on, you just got your first sale, right? What next? Next, you have to speak to the supplier for them to be able to well, first for you to pay for the product, and then for them to send it to your customers, right? So they're going to send it directly to your customers. You're not going to touch and fill the product. Although you do have the chance to touch and fill it if you want. So up to you if you want the product to go directly to your customers, which is faster, or if you want it to be sent to yourself, packaged, how you want it to be packaged, and sent to your end consumer. Totally up to you. And we can go into that later as well. But this is the process. Source products, sell them to your customers, get in touch with the supplier and pay for the product. The supplier sends it to your customer. Okay, so what are the challenges in this model? First and foremost is finding suppliers. Okay, it is not an easy task, right? You're going through it right now. One by one, you have to find all the suppliers that you want that are willing to work with you. And that, it's a challenge, right? Like what kind of suppliers are the right ones for you? Are they willing to drop ship? Next is negotiating the contracts, right? And maybe they each have different needs. Maybe you haven't correctly or figured out like exactly what you guys need. The contracts are kind of a pain in the ass, right? Like how do you want products to be shipped? How often? How do you want them to be packaged? What's your lead time? There's just so many details that go into the contract itself that it's important to find one that's right for you and standardize it as much as possible. But also, suppliers might have their own needs and wants within it, so it's a constant battle of negotiating these contracts. Next is the manual data entry, right? So once the contracts are defined, then the supplier has to pass all the information over to you. Pictures, descriptions, inventory count, pricing, right? And send it to you. So so this is what was happening on my site. They were hacking the system to make this happen, right? They would go, the suppliers would send all of this over in an Excel sheet, plus a Dropbox of all the imagery, and then you have to manually enter it into your site. It's kind of a pain in the ass, but it is well worth it if you have the right suppliers, right? We manage all that for you with my business, but I can go into that again later. But this is a really, really important piece, right? This is where like your blood, sweat, and tears are poured into the business because it's time consuming and it needs to be very specific. So there's a lot these three things, there's a lot of effort put into it. And last is once you have it all complete, you need to make sure that inventory is updated. Because the worst outcome is that you finally get a sale to the customer and the product is out of stock. So you need to find a way to make sure that you're constantly being fed the inventory updates, whether or not that's once a day, once a week, depending on the amount of stock the supplier has on hand, right? All of this, by the way, is related to inventory that is available immediately, right? This is not a model that takes into account pre-orders or products that need to be produced, unless your customers are open to it, which for the most part, they're not, right? They want products immediately. So all of this is talking about how to build a business based on inventory which is readily available. So you want to find suppliers that have a lot of stock so that you don't have to worry about stock outs. At the same time, you want to find suppliers that are unique, which means they usually don't have as much stock. Okay, But despite all those challenges, there are massive benefits. So first and foremost, there's no upfront financial risk with dropshipping. This is one of the greatest challenges with starting a business, right? Is how do you find the money upfront to buy your inventory? And with dropshipping, you don't have to worry about it at all. It's a relationship where you pay for a product after you've already been paid for it. So that's massive, right? It means that you're making just margin on it. All you have to worry about is curating and marketing the products, and you pocket the rest. That's the differential between what you owe the supplier. So this is a huge benefit to dropshipping. It's why it's such a popular business model. Second is the unlimited shelf space, right? So I'm comparing this to brick and mortar stores, right? When you're in a store, you have to buy the inventory and you have a very limited amount of space within that store. With dropshipping, it's online, it's unlimited. It literally opens up the market to have an endless aisle of inventory for you to then manage whatever you want. You can have millions of products, you can have a more curated assortment of products, but it is totally up to you. It is unlimited and it is flexible. In fact, the flexibility is another major selling point, right? You're able to swap in and out styles as you see the trends change, and that's at no cost to you, right? If it's winter, it's summer, it's fall, and you sell into Australia, you're selling to the U.S. You can be as flexible as you want to be. One day you're in bathing suits, the next day you want to be in winter coats. You can just change it out. It makes no difference, right? It makes difference in your customer relationships, but no difference in your financial output. So that flexibility is pretty like defining within this business model. And then lastly, of course, since you're not holding the inventory, you don't have to worry about warehouse or logistics, right? The supplier is taking care of all of that, right? So again, the order comes through your site, you get in touch with the supplier, pay for it, and the supplier then is worrying about all of this. They were warehousing the products, whether or not it's in their garage or in a warehouse, and then they are sending it through to your end customer. You have to then make sure you communicate the shipping information to your customer so they know when the product is coming, but your supplier will notify you as soon as it's shipped. Okay, all good? Okay, so how does this compare to brick and mortar stores and the margins that are associated with it? So let's start with wholesale as an example, right? Wholesale, you have a space that you have to rent, you have staff you have to hire, you have any sort of benefits you have to offer them if you want to. And then you have the financial risk of buying the inventory up front. But that said, the margin on the product is higher on a per product basis with wholesale. So at wholesale, traditionally you're paying, so let's take an example of a $100 item. With wholesale, you're paying about 40% of the MSRP, the suggested retail price, right? So you pay 40%. Let's say you sell it at full price for $100. You take home $60. That's pretty good, but you have all the other costs in running your business for a physical store. And on top of that, you may not sell through all of your inventory at the end of the season, which is guaranteed, right? Nobody sells through 100% of all their products. If they did, they actually made a mistake in their buying. But when you compare it to drop shipping, there's no upfront inventory risk at all, right? So let's take the same example. You have a $100 item. You pay $0 for that product. You sell it for $100. What you then owe the supplier is what you've negotiated with them to be as a percentage of the MSRP. And that's variable. It can be anywhere from 60% to 75% that you owe them. It depends on your relationship that you have with them, and frankly, even the volume that you're processing. The more volume you have, the better. Obviously, the more you'll be able to claim. Okay. And on top of that, you have no end of season inventory, so you don't have to worry about leftover stock or stale stock and getting rid of that at the end of the season. So the margins are different, but why I'm saying it's higher margins is because you don't have all the other associated costs with your business when you're comparing it to a brick and mortar. So it's a much more profitable and less stressful way of selling a lot of products. Okay, so let's go through what you actually need from a supplier in order for you to have a successful relationship with them. First and foremost, imagery, right? You're only as good as your website looks. You want to make sure you have a consistent experience on your site. So what is always important to ask for is a variety of imagery, so you can show what the product looks like from different angles and different points of view. But you also want to have white background, high-res imagery, and also, and speaking about apparel, you want to have a lifestyle shot, product shot, detail shots, everything that you need in order for someone to feel like they're actually touching a product and as in-depth as possible. That's what you want, right? Okay, product details. This is as important as the imagery, right? You want to make sure you have as many specs around the product as you could possibly get. Fabric, sizing, specs around the sizing, where it's made, where it's shipped from, all of those details are what will make your customers feel comfortable. Second, pick and pack. So if you're looking randomly around for suppliers, you want to find people who are able to do what's called pick and pack, which means they're able to sell products one by one. Wholesale, right, people are selling in large lots, so they're used to that, but the ability to sell one by one is not for every single supplier out there. And by supplier, I mean brand, right? You guys know that, just to say and make sure that everyone's understanding the wording. So any brand or supplier that is set up for e-commerce is able to sell one by one. And dropshipping is important that the supplier is able to do that. So you may spend time negotiating contracts with people, and then they don't understand that you're selling one by one, and you wasted all that time. So it's important to understand this up front, right? Make sure that they are able to sell onesies and twosies of the products that they're creating. And again, like if they're set up on e-commerce, then they know how to do that. So that shouldn't be a blocker in any way, shape, or form. And then lastly, payments. Like, how are you going to send payments to the supplier, and vice versa? How do they send them back to you should there be a return, right? So make sure that this is well defined beforehand, because you don't want to get into the situation where you're urgently trying to get a product to a customer and you haven't defined how to sell or how to pay for a product. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about when it comes to making yourself stand out as a store, right? Like, we're all here because we have a point of view and how we want to build a business and sell to our customers. And so what we strongly believe, and I strongly believe, is that you need to sell unique products. You need to find products that make your store stand out above and beyond the rest, right? And that could be a mixture of things, right? You can have like high-priced products that attract low-paying customers, but you need like those key products that make your store stand out, so you can market those products and attract people to your store. And in fact, the more unique the product, the easier it is to market your store, right? Because less people are competing for eyeballs for the same product, right? So I'm saying, like, Amazon, right? You don't want to compete against Amazon. You want to find products that are different from Amazon. Finding unique products will help you stand above and beyond the rest. It also it shows your point of view. So customer loyalty comes from you having a point of view within your store. Why would they come back to you? They believe in the assortment that you have and your curational ability to communicate that to them. So that may be a cluster of products that are merchandised well. That may be a wide assortment of a singular category. It may be a niche. It may be artisans. It may be you name it. But your store needs to have a point of view. Some people like to have, again, millions of products, but we find that the stronger stores have point of view and a niche that they're specifically focusing on, because that brings back customers and makes them loyal to their stores. Okay, so customer loyalty is a big point when it comes to dropshipping, because the hard part is how do you maintain your customers even though you don't own the inventory, right? And how do you prevent people from for example, the suppliers from taking your customer? And this is one of the biggest challenges in dropshipping. In fact, it's beyond the challenges I mentioned earlier. Like, once you've established your customer base, this is the hardest part afterwards, right? So first and foremost, you got to make sure your site is UX, UI friendly. Like, the user experience is awesome. They come to you, they know how to search on your site, they know what they're looking for, you can guide them accurately, it's a consistent experience. And so having the right imagery, the right pictures and specs, all of that is part of the experience of building a loyal customer base. Oh, I guess I already spoke of that. Consistent customer experience. Again, so you want to make sure when they come back to your store that you're communicating the same point of view that you had before, so that they're loyal to you and come back for the assortment of products that you have. Because you're not going to be the only one selling your products, right? Like, that's a rare case that you're the only one on the internet selling your products. So you need to find a way to communicate the customer experience and bring them back consistently for the experience that you've created for them. And that means that you want to have dedicated support and communication. Communication is actually key to dropshipping, right? In fact, like there's like a black hole of miscommunication here, right? Like you don't own the product, somebody else is holding them. How do you make sure that this whole process is well defined, a well-oiled wheel, right? And is going to make its way to your customer. So the relationship needs to be between the retailer, the supplier, and also be communicated to your end consumers. And as you build a loyalty, you don't have to step up the communication as much. But as you start your store and want to build towards that lifelong loyalty or lifetime customer value, this communication is key. So as you get input from the supplier, like whether or not in fact, all of it should be communicated. What's the lead time from the point when it's picked and packed, when it's prepared and shipped? What's the lead time from the point when it's shipping and reaching your end customer? Do you want that package to be expedited, or does the customer want it to be? All of that is part of this experience and communication between you, the retailer, and the supplier, as well as the end consumer. And then last is delivery and packaging, right? So packaging it's a big part, right? Like how should a product be packaged in order for your customer to have an awesome experience? And with dropshipping, that is actually hard to manage because it's out of your control to some extent, right? So what you need to know is, what does the packaging look like from your supplier? You should get pictures of it and have them take imagery of the boxes and the stuffing and what it looks like in order for you to understand what that package is going to look like when it reaches your customer. It's really important, right? Because you can have awesome products that look great in a picture, but it's packaged in like cellophane and just sent in a box or in like a manila folder, and that's a shitty experience for your customer, and you lose it, even though the product is probably quite awesome. So you need to make sure that packaging is defined. And that can be defined in a couple different ways. Again, like you can have the package sent to you and you package it within your own materials and send it out. You can also have your packaging materials and your branding materials sent to your suppliers, who then send it to your end consumer. So you can manage that how you want. There's different costs associated with that, right? If you're going to send your own packaging materials to your suppliers, you probably have a more dedicated assortment of suppliers and a very specific relationship with them, which is great. You should try to do that as much as possible because it's a more loyal relationship. But you don't have to, right? Instead, customers are happy to get the personalized packaging that a supplier puts together and sends to a customer. You just want to make sure you understand what it looks like. And then delivery. Again, be clear about what the delivery time is. Like, what is the time frame for a supplier to prepare a package and then send it? So that would be the lead time. And then what's the delivery time? And that would be the UPS or USPS delivery time. All of that needs to be very clearly communicated. Yeah. Okay. So I'll just quickly show a case study. Do you guys know Gwynny B? Are you familiar with it? Gwynny B is one of the largest subscription box businesses that's focused on plus size. They're a $100 million business. They're doing extremely well, and their customers were interested in buying products above and beyond the boxes that they were receiving. So they launched a store, and they came to us saying that they had this challenge that they had to manage these relationships one by one. They're like, you guys are the mothership. We want to organize everything through you. So we've launched with Gwynny B. All of their products are fed from Modalyst into Gwynny B, and it's a frictionless experience for them. They actually, though, have been very specific about who they carry in their store. So they're not only, it's just so easy on Modalyst to like add products and send it to your store. In this case, though, they're defining the relationships one by one and very carefully launching those collections. So they launch about 5 a week, but they have dedicated email campaigns for each of these suppliers and have very closely nurtured those relationships. So they're a good example of like a massive store that can have more curational experience for their online presence, but also with great potential for them to scale quickly. 5 a week is kind of a lot, especially if you're going to have like dedicated email blasts and presentations on them. But you can add 100 a week depending on what you want for your store. So I'll just do a little plug about Modalyst. We've taken like I said, stores were hacking our system to create these relationships, and so what we did is look at all the challenges that they were facing and literally automate all of it. So we're a dropshipping platform that enables retailers to connect to suppliers, and we automate everything from the, so it's a one-click sourcing opportunity. You click on a product and it's seamlessly added to your store, including pictures, descriptions, the inventory count, and in the imagery. Did I say that? Imagery? And the pricing, sorry. And all that is kept in sync. So when any of the products sell across the thousands of stores that we work with, it's going to count down for all of them. So that like hurdle of, great, you've got everything onto your site, now what about the inventory count? How do we avoid selling out of products? We've ironed that out for you, so you don't have to worry about it. Everything in terms of like data entry, all of that is managed. So we connect suppliers all the way from their warehouse through to that end consumer. Meaning when you as a retailer add a product to your store and you get an order, that order will flow through all the way to the supplier, even to the warehouse, and then and then it'll be sent directly to your end consumer once it's paid for. We've standardized the contracts. We have a standardized commission split as well. So we do a 60-40 split. Supplier gets 60%, retailer gets 40%. It's actually a high percentage for the retailer. We've done that intentionally so that you can discount your products as well, because selling at full price is hard. But so we said that no problem, you can discount your products, but you still owe the supplier 60%. So that's your margin. And so yeah, we're a global platform. We have around 700 suppliers on the platform, thousands of stores working with us, around 15,000, and our suppliers are global. So what's interesting, maybe I should have mentioned this earlier, is you want to also, so there's two different theories. One is you want to be the first to market with products. The second is you want to have products that are close to home, so you don't have to worry about customs and duties and a higher shipping price. So that's totally up to you and your business model, but those are just key decisions that you'll have to make for when it comes to who you're deciding to work with. Again, we do a real-time data feed, so we're connected through to the supplier's inventory management system. So any changes in their inventory will be automatically fed into your store. We have pre-negotiated contracts and the product order tracking. So as soon as a supplier sends a product, that order tracking will flow through all the way to your end consumer. You don't have to worry about communicating it to them as well. Yeah, so that's us in a nutshell, and dropshipping in a nutshell. I know I went very, very quickly, so feel free. I don't know what.
Yeah, pretty fast.
Pretty fast. Okay. So feel free to ask. I mean, I actually prefer the Q&A because it's I'm here to address your questions and issues. So that's intentionally. It was intentional to go through quickly. Yes. Oh, sorry. Okay.
So what's your pricing model?
Our pricing model. Okay, so what is our pricing model for Modalyst? We charge a $35 monthly membership fee, and then 2% of your dropshipping sales.
Sorry, just one more question very quickly. So when you have the dropship supplier relationships and you're curating products from a variety of different countries or whatever, how does the shipping work? Because if you're shopping at like a mainstream retailer, you pay that standard shipping fee.
Yeah.
How does that get managed?
Yeah, sure. So, okay, the question is, when you're working with international suppliers, how do you manage the shipping fees across all of them? It's a great question, right? Also, as a retailer, are you going to offer free shipping or not, right? A lot of people offer free shipping for the U.S. and not for international. And that's, again, totally up to you. And so in our model, you can mark products up and down. It's up to you. You can also charge what you want for shipping. We have a stated shipping price that you owe the supplier that they've put into the system that is their cost to ship the product. So that's how we work, but you would want, so I'll speak in both cases. Like, aside from us, you would want to negotiate the same for yourself. So on a per supplier basis, get a list of like maybe the key countries that you think you'll be shipping to and what they expect the shipping price will be based on the weight and the box size, right? And that way you have a more clear idea of how much shipping will be, and you can add that into either the product cost or into the shipping costs. Sure.
What to do with returns?
Returns is a challenge, right? We have to expect it in e-commerce, but it's certainly a challenge. So what we've done is that we have a 14-day return policy, And so from the day it reaches the customer, so they can make up their mind in that period of time. If they want to return it, then the retailer pays for the return, the cost of shipping, but the supplier is required to take the product back. So again, I'm giving you examples of my business, but it's based on best practices that we've seen. So I'm happy to give other examples as well, but what we did is monitor what everybody was doing and build a system based on that. So that's an idea, right? The money flows back through to the retailer, who then pays it back to the end consumer. And it's up to the retailer if they want to wait for the money to flow back or pay earlier. Also, in some cases, if it's past a 14-day period of time, the retailer will take the product back and own it themselves and resell it on the site. It's something that's easy to relist, right?
Do you work with all platforms, and do you have a Shopify app and app?
Yeah, so we're currently integrated into Shopify and WooCommerce. We have BigCommerce coming next month. And we have a very, very intense integration schedule for the next year to integrate into 12 more. So we'll be very, very integrated in the next year. But yeah, so we're one of the top inventory apps in Shopify. Great 5-star reviews all around. And yeah, they've been reaching out to us for partnerships because it's been such like a positive experience for them. But yeah, it's by far one of the more active communities for us.
Sorry, I was going to ask, how do you
Photos. Okay, so we don't take photos, and in fact, you shouldn't take photos either of your products unless absolutely necessary. So if you have a supplier that you love and they have shitty photos, then like ask for them to send samples and take the photos yourself. That is very, very expensive to do. We don't do that. So we have certain specs that we require within our photos, and we try our best to manage it. But photos are hard, right? So with accessories, white background imagery is easy. With apparel, it is hard. Like, does it look better off the body? Does it look better on the body? What's lifestyle look like? Is it better like out on the street? Is it better, I mean, the example I even showed there had like a grayish background. It's one of our top selling brands. It's really hard to manage, and it's part of your site consistency. So it's a challenge. It's one of the things you have to sort of measure against. Like, is this product something that's going to sing, or is it going to ruin the customer experience? But for sure, you want white background as much as you can, so it's consistent. Unless, of course, you have like an odd site that's like fully black background. Which was over there in the net.
Can you talk about the payment integration?
Pardon me?
Payment.
Payments. Okay, so what we've done, and what seems to be the easiest as well, is payments through PayPal, because everybody seems to have a PayPal account, no matter how big or small the store or the brand is. So we take payments through PayPal, but there are so many other options, right? There's Square, there's direct bank accounts, there are many options that you can do. You just want to define it up front. PayPal has been easy also for returns, back to that question, because you just click on the button to refund the money and the money flows back. So that's been an easy option for us, and I would recommend it as well. It's been pretty easy